everyone, and welcome to Inside Bristol. I'm your host, Sheridan Nichols. We're so glad to have you here today. And we've got kicking off the show with two guests, and we are talking about literacy and the importance of reading. And there is a great program that's going on right here in Bristol at our elementary schools with reading buddies. And I've got Andrew Brown here and Daniel Stevens. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
So who wants to start?
Come on, I know you're dying to.
Andrew can.
We'll start with
I
you.
can, since the
Okay.
program actually, we started at Anderson last year. It was a program designed just to give some more attention to reading and let kids know what a priority that is. And so we began to look at different models of what they call community schools, and getting the whole community involved in the educational process. And so as we did that, we started thinking about ways we could incorporate and bring people into the school. And what we found, the research shows that what kids need is just somebody to give them more attention, to know that people care about them, and it's all about building relationships. And so that's really what we focus on so much more in Reading Buddies than actually about the reading. I mean, that is a big part of it. The kids are going to be reading when their buddy comes. But the thing that I've seen more than anything are just the relationships that are built, and that was really driven home this year when our kindergartners came back for first grade, and the first time they met with their buddies again as first graders, there's the hugs and the embraces and the smiles, and when the buddy came into their class for the first time, they just jumped up and said, "That's my buddy," and would run over to greet them. So it was really great.
And what about you, Daniel? What are you noticing?
This is our first year doing the program at Fairmount Elementary. We have 4 kindergarten classes, and right now at this point we have about 12 reading buddies coming in. They're 30-minute sessions, and so some of them have volunteered to see 2 kids a day. So we're serving about 25 kids at this time. So it's been great to get the reading buddies in, get the students looking forward to meeting with an adult once a week for that one-on-one interaction. And like Andrew said, it's great just they look forward to it. The buddies, the adults, look forward to it just as much as well. If they have to miss for something, they're just as upset as the student is. So it's been a great program.
So if somebody's watching right now and they're interested in becoming a reading buddy, what are the qualifications and how do they do that?
Willingness and time. We actually have when we do an orientation at the beginning of the year with prospective buddies, we give them a sheet where they can fill out their free times during the week. And then we try to pair that up with an opening with a child during their daily schedule. At my school, Kay Ward is our volunteer coordinator, so they can contact Kay, or they can call the school, and we'll get them in touch with Kay. And I think
at my school, I'm the school counselor there, so I'm in charge of the Reading Buddy program.
Oh, okay. So you know to contact Daniel?
You know to contact Daniel Stevens at Fairmount Elementary School. Some of the process is pretty easy. You do have to have a background check. I think a lot of things that people are worried about is they were never teachers. They weren't, we're not asking you to teach a kid to read. A lot of it is, coming in, just the conversation with an adult. Students pick up on a lot of that. And the goal of this whole program is, if kids are on track by 3rd grade, they'll be more successful, finishing up elementary school and going into middle school when it comes to reading. And that, of course, carries across all subjects.
So have you been able to get a reading buddy for each child or in the kindergarten in both the schools?
So far, we've been able to meet the needs of those. And last year, it even got to the point where, those kids that didn't really need a reading buddy, they still wanted one. Yeah. It really, like I said, it got to be where it really wasn't so much about reading. It was more about, making a new friend. And that's really what matters. We did a lot of research, and there's a piece of literature out there called The Invisible Child, and it talks about those kids who just kind of slip between the cracks. Just mom and dad at home are busy working, and they're not a behavior problem, or they don't really draw attention at school, and somewhere along the way they just don't have that meaningful connection and relationship that they need to know the importance of education and to build that foundation. And like Daniel said, our goal is by the time these kids are in 3rd grade is that 90% of them will be proficient in reading. And we've already seen huge gains. Last year, we started the program and we targeted 40 students in our kindergarten class. By the end of the year, we had already seen, by the measurement tool we used, 17 of those kids were already at grade level, at the 50th percentile on that test or better.
Wow, that's great.
So we had already cut that number almost in half. Just after our first semester this year, we continue to track these students. After our first 9 weeks of school, actually after the first semester, we got to the point we used two different measuring tools. One of them's an early childhood test and the other's for more the older kids. Typically we use that test all the way through first grade, but our first graders are performing so well we had to go ahead and bump them up to the next level test. So instead of using the early literacy test, we moved them up to the older students test.
Well, and I think it really builds their confidence level when you know how to read, and especially because you end up having to read out loud some in class so everyone can hear, if you're mispronouncing a word. So I'm sure this helps build sort of a safe zone where you can practice, and I'm sure it helps some kids too with speech therapy and working out their sounds, and you don't feel so rushed and you can slow down.
Right.
And
It's that one-on-one
it's nice.
that the teacher might not always be able to give a student, and I think that's been the biggest thing. And like Andrew said, they know when they're reading buddies in the school, they jump up out of the seat and they're ready to go.
Like, all right.
Yeah.
Are you going to do it with anything else, like math or science, or is reading really?
Well,
the place to
reading is the
start?
foundation for everything. If
Right.
students, and as Daniel mentioned, our goal is that third grade reading proficiency, because so much in society, so many different things look at how students are performing in third grade as an indicator at how they're going to do in the rest of life. And the big reason that is, and that's our benchmark set there, is because that's where the big shift happens in education. You leave that stage of education where we're teaching kids to read, and at that point in time, students begin to read for more knowledge. So if they don't have those foundational blocks that they need to be good readers, and they're not reading at the level they're supposed to be, at that point in time that informational gap begins to grow. And as other fluent readers continue to gain more information from their reading skills, these kids are still trying to get those reading skills and they're missing out on all that information. So that's a really good indicator of how a student's going to do throughout the rest of their educational career.
That's interesting. Well, that's great. Well, it's a great program. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing that with us. And again, you'll need to get in touch with these people if you're interested in volunteering, because it sounds like we've got kids that could use, a buddy, or even for next school year.
Nope.
Yeah, you
We
can
don't
never have
turn
enough
away
buddies.
volunteers.
So give them a call. Thanks so much for being on,
Thank you.
and we'll be right back, so stay tuned.